Hey guys, and welcome to another Cubase Tips live stream. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at expression maps inside of Cubase and just explain to you exactly what expression maps do. They're a very powerful little tool. Here I've got a very like one of my templates loaded up which I like to use, and these particular patches use key switches, so instead of having loads of different individual articulations loaded up, they all use key switches to switch through the articulation patches for each instrument. So if we have a look at one of these here, you can see on this brass patch here you've got the sustains, you've got the soft sustains, you've got the staccatos and the marcatos. Now when you're scoring music and you're putting things together, if you're using key switches, a lot of the time most people will tend to do this. So let's just give you a scenario here. So let's they'll draw the notes in. Okay, and then what they'll do is they'll go back to their sampler and they'll look at where the key switches are in relation to the patch. So these are quite high up here, looks like C6 or something like that. Yeah, C6. And what they would do is they would draw in, say if they wanted sustains, they'd draw it in like this, and then if they wanted a marcato or a staccato or something like that, they'd just draw in the MIDI note information to trigger these changes. Now the trouble with this is it's a bit cumbersome and it's a lot of time and effort involved, and one of the inherent problems is that, for example, if you just finished a whole score and you've put the key switches in using MIDI information like this, that if you wanted to preview your score in a completely different key, if you just wanted to transpose it up a semitone or a whole tone just to see how it feels in different keys, then you've got to select all the MIDI data and unselect any key switches that you've put in with the MIDI. So this is like an inherent sort of flaw. So one thing people tend to do, for example, to work around this, is they'd create a MIDI channel and then assign the MIDI channel to the instrument channel, and then they'd draw in the note information on here to trigger the key switches for the patches. And again, this is a cumbersome thing. Although it allows you to put all your MIDI tracks to one side, it means you're doubling up your channel counts and you're giving yourself more work in the long term, and it's just counterintuitive really. So the way around this is actually using a feature inside of Cubase which is really powerful, and it's called expression maps. Now what expression maps allows you to do is, if you see down here, I've got these labels: sustains, staccatos and marcatos. So instead of me actually drawing in the MIDI information, let's just change some of these here. When you set up expression maps in Cubase, you can actually draw the information here in this lane as quick as this, and these don't get put down as MIDI notes, it's just data inside of the lane here, and these will trigger the key switch changes for these particular sounds depending on where I draw it in. So if we play this back now, I mean I could always change this to a staccato if I want as well. And you see how simple it is to actually quickly draw in those key switches to change through articulation. So this saves a lot of time. Now the only drawback with expression maps is that you have to make them yourself, or if you can search around online and try and find someone that's pre-made expression maps for all the different libraries out there, which you can buy, then it'd save you a lot of time. But I'm just going to show you now how to set up your own expression map. Pretty simple to do actually. So over in the inspector pane here, if we minimize that, you might not have it shown. Expression map should be between here, with your MIDI inserts and your quick controls. If it's not showing up, then you need to go to the cog icon and just make sure expression maps is checked so you can see it. And all you do is you click on expression map, and this will be an empty box. These are different expression maps I've created for this template. And then at the bottom, if you want to create a new map, you just go to expression map setup. This will all be empty for you, you won't see anything. But what you want to do to create a new map is click on the plus sign, and you'll get something that looks a little bit like this. Now you can name this whatever you want. So if you want to put this as map test, or whatever the instrument is you're creating the expression map for. And all you need to do now, this is pretty easy, is have a look at how many key switches there are that trigger things inside of the product that you're building this map for. So for example, this one I've got 4 different articulations, and that means they're going to be mapped to 4 different key switches on the controller. Now we know that the key switches are starting on C6. For all the other products out there, depending on where the note ranges are, they'll put their key switches in different places. They're usually mapped out as red like this. So all you need to do if you can't figure it out, or if it's not labelled, is just open up the piano roll, and with your sampler open, just do this until you eventually find what key it sits on, and you can draw it in here and you'll get the note name. If you're still not too sure, you might need to zoom in a little bit onto your piano roll, but it does show it in Cubase. So when you know where the notes are and what the key switches are assigned to, you can start building your patch, your expression map. Not patch, man, get my words twisted here today. So you can build your expression map as soon as you know where the key ranges are. So for that patch, there was 4 different key switches, and they started at C6. So if we do C6, and then the next one's going to be on C#6, so we can put C#6, and then D6, and then finally D#6. Now I know that these are what the articulations are. So this was a sustain. This was a sustain soft, this was a staccato, and this was a marcato. So you just label these different things. And then once you've labelled them, what we need to do next is actually assign the output mapping data. And this is pretty easy to do. You just select the channel and then click the plus sign. And then what you want to do is change the value of the data input here, C3, to the value of what we typed in for the key switch, and this will activate that key switch correctly. So C6, and then this one will be C#6, and then create one for D6, and then create one for D#6. Now we've created the main, we've done the main job. We need to, in order to get these to show up inside of here, if I select this map test, you'll see that nothing shows up. Oh, actually I better show you what this comes under. If you create a new lane, and on the drop down menu, where you've got like your pitch, bend, velocity and all that, what you need to select is articulations and dynamics to show up the expression map pane, or lane even. So in this lane you can see that I've built these, but they're not showing up here. Now why is that? We need to name the articulations. So this is what we're going to do now. And across these panes here, we can click in the blank spaces and add our articulations. So we're just going to be going from articulation 1 and moving downwards here. You have got predefined things like this with all the different Italian words for different playing styles. But what I like to do is just use the custom text and type in the same thing for each one, or just copy it. So custom text, that'll be the sustain, and then one for the staccatos, and one for the marcatos. Now the next thing we want to do here is actually change the type from attribute to direction, and basically all this means is that if you're using some instruments, some of them, when you draw in the key switch, or I don't know, you could be using this to trigger not just key switch. Okay, apparently OBS disconnected. Right, okay. The stream dropped out for a second then. But it should be back up, I think. Let me just double check. Yeah, it looks fine. So with the difference between attribute and direction, some instruments, for example, say a Scarby Rickenbacker bass by Native Instruments, they have certain key switches that control the length of notes, or they trigger mutes and stuff like that. Now, if you have things set to attribute, when you go to draw in the lane information here, it doesn't come across as one long bar, it just comes in as like a very short cut-off section. which is okay for some instruments, but for others, for example, again, the bass one, if I wanted to trigger a sustained note, you know, and hold a sustain, then I would need this to be set to directional, because as it's scrolling across to the right and reading the information, if it stops abruptly, it will stop the sustain, you know, for that trigger. So it's always good to set them to directional. I've not really found a use for a tribute as of yet. I just always set the type to direction. And it's as simple as that, guys. Once you've actually created your map, save it to a location which you know you're not going to lose or delete if you have to format your computer and whatnot. And then all you do is, from that folder or that location where you saved it, is load your expression map into Cubase for that particular instrument. And there you go, you can start using expression maps to trigger all your key switching functions in your samplers. So it's a pretty short video, guys, but as I say, expression maps are a very powerful tool. They do take a long time to set up, but it is worth it at the end of the day. It's going to save you hundreds of hair-pulling scenarios in the long term. I mean, for example, I've hardly got any hair now from all the frustrations I've had with music-related stuff, so it's definitely going to be worth taking into account how to create these. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'm going to leave this video here, and as always, guys, thank you for watching the stream, and I will see you again soon for another Cubase tips tutorial video.